I was a little squirt, man. That my brothers had 52s or my one brother had a big old Cadillac, a black one. Not a very good driver, my brother.
How many brothers did you have? Or do
There
you have?
was five of us all
Okay,
together.
five.
Now there's just me. I'm the last of the Mohicans. So
And all of your siblings into lowriding?
yes, well, either lowriding or Harleys.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother that was a year and a half older than me. Uh, that's where I got my first Harley Davidson from him. It was a Sportster, a '76. Beautiful little bike, man. To me, it was a big bike, you know what I mean? But to him, he was a good motorcycle rider. He could do things on a bike. I'm just
So what? He outgrew that bike and he gave it to you?
within months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was already, doing a Brody's on it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He could handle a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Unlike me, I just ride them.
But is that where you found? Because you're a Harley guy as well. I mean, you're not only a
Yeah,
lowrider. You're not only, but you're a Harley guy.
yeah.
And is that where you got your love for Harleys? Was from him?
Well, the funny thing of it is my dad had a. Is that me or you? Uh, my dad bought a motorcycle in '64.
Oh, okay.
It was a little Honda 50, right, to go to work and back because we lived in Wilmington and he was a longshoreman. So, but one day he wanted to show us kids how to ride that bike. And he was having a few beers in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, "You kids come here. I'm going to show you how to ride this bike," right? So he's a superb bicycle rider. He gives it gas and he puts it in gear and pops a wheelie and hits the garage.
Dad showboating.
Yeah, puts a hole in the garage. He said, "Don't tell your mom." And right then and there, we had a bike.
Yeah.
It was ours. So we're like, I don't know, I was 8 years old. And we started riding just in the backyard because we had a big backyard. And then my brother, the one that was a year older, he he started. He could do anything on a bike. He was nuts. So anyway, that's where I got my motorcycle kind of. When kids have uh, start buying dirt bikes and this and that and the other. So I was always around bikes, comfortable. And then when it came time to get that Harley, man, it was like I was pretty exciting. I didn't keep it very long.
No. What
No,
did you end up switching to? What did you end up getting?
nothing. I didn't do anything for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting that Harley, selling it, and then bought a '64 Chevy Super Sport.
Around what year?
Mm, 72.
So it was pretty new. It was a fairly new.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, my first car really was, when I was 16, was a '51 Chevy.
That was your first car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, I bought it for like, I think it was $200. So you figure it wasn't very old when I bought it.
No, I mean, it wasn't old at all.
No, but you were considered like you were a poor person if you had a car like that in comparison to 62 or 63. It looked pretty ancient, you know what I mean?
Right.
To us, it didn't, to young people, it was all right. I scored. So
Kind of similar to now, right? I mean, where we find an older car and we're like, man, we scored. So when you in the '70s, in the '60s, that's what you were doing basically is
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I got kicked out of the house because
because of what?
I had a girlfriend at the time. She lived in Redondo Beach, right? So I bought this. I had to sell the gray one because I never was able to drive it. My dad wouldn't let me drive it. He kind of figured I would be in trouble. Don't know why.
He knew you.
Yeah, like a book. So I ended up getting this 52 Chevy, and then along with that, you have freedom and you can go see your girl. But my pops, he wasn't having it, so um, kind of took it away from me. Well, that ain't gonna work for very long.
Right.
So anyway, to make a long story short, I got the car, and I was a man already in my mind. Freaking like a little 17 years old, you think
Thought you were.
yeah,
You thought you knew it all. You thought you had it all figured out.
precisely. I didn't know crap. I had a fine looking girlfriend.
And a nice car.
And a nice car.
Were you hooking it up back then already? Were you trying to
Yeah,
hook
it was lowered and everything. I have a picture of it on Instagram. It's a powder blue. But it was a power glide, so they called them power slides back in the day.
Yeah.
Look, Chicanos back in the day when we were younger, you would have, it wasn't like today, you didn't have a lot of money. Your car probably had primer spots on it. You didn't have no hydraulic systems or anything like that. You had bags of cement in the back to lower
Maybe
it.
some cinder blocks or whatever.
Whatever was heavy enough for that time, you would use that. And your cars were, there was very few dudes that had money to really fix them up, unless you were older. And then well, for one thing, Wilmington was a white neighborhood back in the day.
In the early 40s and 50s or
Yes.
50s?
Well, all the way up until the 70s.
Mm.
Until until those white girls started getting a little older,
Right.
and those Chicanos started going out with.
My grandmother, my great grandmother had a house in Ghost Town, right on PCH.
Okay, yeah.
In the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
And yeah, she used to tell my mother stories. I have 4 generations of women who grew up in Wilmington. My great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, they were all born and raised in Wilmington. That's why I have such a close. I feel really close to Wilmington. I have it in my heart. I love Wilmington.
Yeah.
I feel like it's my home in a way. So, my great grandmother had her home there. My grandmother lived there. My mother lived there. But yeah, she used to tell me stories that it was mostly, it was mostly white people. It was mostly Caucasian.
And then it took a real big turn. But it was you know what? We didn't have a issue with prejudice or anything like that.
In the harbor in general?
Not really. I mean, as kids, maybe the adults had issues, but
Here at that time, basically, you weren't getting into a lot of that, a lot of those issues here in the harbor as a young person.
Yeah.
I mean, it was happening all over the world.
Yeah.
But here in the harbor, as a young person, it really, you weren't too affected by it.
No.
There was a lot of other races here.
I mean, you were certainly not, let's say Caucasian people didn't think very highly of Mexicans when they wanted to make their remarks.
Right.
You dirty Mexicans or something like that.
Beaners or wetback, whatever they.
I says, well, you better watch out. One of them's cleaning your house right now, so
Yeah.
can't be that dirty.
One of them's taking care of your kid right now.
Yeah. So, but that was far and few between, you know what I mean? There's always morons, no matter what culture you're around.
Right.
Ignorance is
not bliss.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's pretty cool that you had your dad and then your brother sort of guiding you into the motorcycle world, and then cars were obviously a big part.
Yeah.
When did you really start to like feel that you were a lowrider? I guess when did you say